Alright guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about a very fantastic movie that just came out and it was so good, man. Today we're going to be talking about none other than Superman. So in this video, I'm going to be giving you guys semi-spoiler free review of sorts of the new Superman movie starring David Cornsweet as Superman, directed by James Gunn, which is kickstarting the new DCU. Man, where do I begin? Let me start off by saying, if you haven't seen this movie, change that. Fix that. Go see this movie in the theater where it's intended to be watched. Let me tell you, man, I was in this theater, I was in my seat, and I was just overcome with this feeling of joy, with this feeling of heart. Watching Superman just be the best version of humanity, exhibit the best features of being a human. It felt so relieving. It felt so hopeful in today's climate, in today's world where you look at the world around you, you go on social media, you look at the news, it's a disaster. And this movie just felt so hopeful, so full of life, so full of joy, so full of heart. And I was just sitting in this theater and I was just thinking to myself, man, this is so positive. This is so good. Good in terms of heart. Good in terms of character. Good in terms of the example it's setting for the future and for communities. You know, I'm not the biggest Superman fan. Hell, I'm not even the biggest DC fan. But this movie definitely changed that. Definitely swayed the balance in their favor. Listen, all hands on deck. I'm with this cause. I'm with the Superman cause, and I'm with this new DCU cause, because this movie was just that great. This movie was that fantastic. James Gunn did a remarkable job. He cooked. The gun went off. So if you're going into this with doubts, if you're going into this with suspicions, if you're going into this with low expectations or no expectations, because, man, I'm not, Superman, it's just Superman, man. I felt the same way, trust me. Like I said, I was never the biggest Superman fan, and I've been an MCU head since 2012, since the Avengers movie came out and changed, the comic book movie landscape. And I've never seen myself, writing this hard for DC. And that's not to say I hated DC, the rivalry is healthy. It's good to have competition in every avenue of entertainment, because it boosts the output, Okay, my apologies. I got into a whole rant about Marvel. Not a rant, but I just started talking about Marvel. This is a Superman video. We're talking about Superman, the movie directed by James Gunn. Fantastic movie. Superman is technically the very first superhero, He's the blueprint. He is quite literally the blueprint for every superhero to come after him. He is the first superhero put to comic book paper. And I feel this movie does that justice in a certain way, in a certain aspect. Maybe it's the MCU brain and customs thinking for me. But I want to get into not a criticism, but more of a nitpick. And I'm not one to nitpick. I don't like to, but I want to get this off my chest respectfully. So my first and probably only real nitpick with this movie is the lack of quote unquote epic moment. Like I said, maybe it's the MCU brain and customs talking for me, but I felt as if there was no really insanely epic, insanely cool moment in this movie that just made me go like, whoa. Like, there's been times I watch certain movies and I get giddy, like the Avengers Assemble moment in Endgame. Like, I got so giddy, I had a nerdgasm. Basically, is what I'm saying. And I felt there was no nerdgasm moment in this movie. And maybe that's just the fact that I'm not the biggest DC fan, the fact that I wasn't the biggest Superman fan coming into this. Outside looking back, there's definitely moments that I was hyped. There was hype moments, there was cool moments, but there wasn't over the top, nerdgasm. Superman is the best, Superman is rad, Superman's the GOAT. I feel like I'm wording this wrong. Let me bring up an example. Avengers Infinity War. Everyone was getting their ass kicked. Wakanda was being overrun. It felt like all hope was lost. The music was playing into that angle as well. And we get Thor. We get the most epic Thor scene in the entirety of the MCU, if you ask me, and probably the most epic scene in Infinity War. Thor landing on Wakanda with his new Stormbreaker, his new outfit. He's with Rocket, he's with Groot, and he looks so powerful. He looks so cool. Bring me Thanos. Wipes out, I don't know, probably 100 of those weird alien dogs. I was in the theater like, oh my god, like, Thor is the best. Thor is the coolest. And I feel like Superman doesn't have that in this movie. And that's not quite a negative. It's not at all. Because I'm going to get into why I feel that is. And if I'm right in thinking this, then it's perfectly valid. And I want to preface this by saying there is some discourse about this on Twitter that I've seen, and it's gonna reference my example that I'm using. And that's basically in the trailer. We see this little kid. He holds up a flag with the Superman emblem, and he's whispering over and over, Superman, Superman, you know, in a way to say, Superman, please come save us. This is obviously also in the movie. And during those events in the movie, I was so accustomed to having this epic badass moment happen that I was like, okay, what's gonna happen? Like, how's Superman gonna come in? How's Superman gonna save this? But it didn't happen. And I was like, huh. Like, it did leave a semi-sour taste in my mouth. And that's also what this guy on Twitter had said. You know, why didn't he go save the kid? Why didn't he show up for them? And the response to that is, what happens in the movie is that the Justice Game shows up instead and helps them out. And the reason for that is that Superman is set up to be this example. He's set up to be an inspiration. And that's perfectly fine. That's acceptable. It also plays into another theory I had, and that's that if you have this almighty, imposing, boasting that he's so powerful kind of Superman, then we get a Superman that is easy to be fooled by. And by that I mean, you set him up as this imposing character, he's boasting how powerful he is, and when someone, you know, like Lex Luthor comes in the picture and tries to manipulate the masses and say, this guy has all this power, but he's using you all. He's making it seem like he's saving you guys, when in reality, he's trying to control you all. He's trying to make you guys worship him like a god. And if Superman has that track record of going out of his way to make everyone's wishes come true and whatnot, then the masses start to believe someone like Lex and say, you know, you're right. What gives him the right to go around solving everyone's problems as if he's God? So I feel like that's why James Gunn didn't go that route, and that's why we don't see a big, epic, badass Superman moment in that way. And I respect that. It makes sense. I respect it. It's just, you know, a little nitpick I had. I kind of went into detail a lot about it, but I had to get it off my chest, and I also had to realize why it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Like, it would be totally cool. Of course, down the line, there's going to be moments like this. I understand James Gunn and his vision if he doesn't want to have such a badass Superman to begin with, you know, to start out. I do hope we see him have these badass moments, you know, maybe if he goes into space to fight someone, or if he's, you know, isolated in a fight. I hope there's a big badass moment. And don't get me wrong, there is hype moments in this movie. There's some exciting, like, yes, clap moments in this movie, but that's also to say most of them were in the trailer. Most of them got shown off before I even saw this movie, so they were kind of less effective. I have to be honest, that's my opinion. They were less effective due to the fact that I saw most of it in the trailer. It's not a fair criticism, because the whole reason a lot of this movie was in the trailer was to build up that hype and anticipation and really market and sell this movie. It's the first movie of the DCU. This movie had to do good. So that plays into why so much of it was shown in trailers. But I'm yapping. I'm ranting. So now that that's out the way, let's get into the story. I know, finally. It's a straightforward Superman story. You know, a day in the life, adventures with Superman kind of story. We get thrown into this pre-existing world. I know this is the quote-unquote beginning of the DCU, but this DC universe has existed for 3,000 plus years, and Superman has been Superman for 3 years. So we're getting thrown headfirst into this pre-existing world, this pre-existing story, and I actually love it. Superman got his ass kicked. Krypto takes him to the Fortress of Solitude, and it just goes from there. The main villain of this movie is Lex Luthor, with assistance from Ultraman and the Engineer. Obviously, he gets help at points from the Justice Gang, which includes Guy Gardner, Hawkgirl, and Mr. Terrific. Of course, there's a whole Daily Planet gang, Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, etc., as well as some other, you know, friends along the way, most notably Metamorpho. And how can I leave out Krypto? I mentioned them earlier, but Krypto, shout out Krypto. And the story is basically, you know, day in the life adventures with Superman, good versus evil. Lex Luthor, of course, up to no good, planning to take down Superman. But Superman prevails because he's Superman. He saves the city of Metropolis and ultimately the world. So that's the story, pretty straightforward. And with that, I want to segue into the pacing of this movie, because that was one thing that I saw not criticized, but someone took a note of that. I forgot exactly what the tweet said. If you can't tell, I spent a lot of time on Twitter. But they said it was the most hectic, out of line, all over the place movie, but they loved it. And it makes sense. This is my take. The pacing for this movie is very chaotic, and that's not negative whatsoever. Chaotic meaning action packed, chaotic meaning relentless. There's almost little to no time to relax. There's no specific quote unquote bathroom break scene. You sit down, you start watching the movie, and you're there until it's over, which I love, which I applaud. A movie should be like that. And some people might look at it, it was jumbled, it was this and that, but I also have a quote unquote theory for this. If I get any of this, even semi right, it just makes sense. It just makes sense. And I guess that means, I understand James Gunn as a director. But, look at Superman. Think of Superman. Think of who he is. Think of his responsibilities. He is essentially the strongest being in the DCU so far, and he is the most important protector of planet Earth. Earth is a ginormous place. Trillions of people. So take a day in the life of Superman, and you factor in his secret identity, Clark Kent, where first of all, his job as a human is at the Daily Planet, a newspaper business. Look at movies, look at shows, look at real life. A newspaper business is busy all the time. They're churning out newspapers every day with new stories, with new information. So as a reporter or writer, I'm not exactly sure what Clark Kent does at the Daily Planet, if I'm honest. But whatever his job is, he's obviously busy at the Daily Planet. Now you go to Superman. He has to basically go around the world helping whoever and however he can. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of places that he has to be consecutively. Someone like Superman is always on the move and is always busy. And I feel like that's why this has such a chaotic, relentless pacing. Because Superman has no breaks. He has no time to just stop and mope and think. Occasionally he does, there is some emotional aspects to Superman, but all in all, he's always occupied. So that's my explanation for the pacing, and I respect it. If these are things that James Gunn took into account, if these are things that went through James Gunn's head, then I respect Gunn. I respect this movie so much more. Now, I'm not a big, film buff guy, I'm not looking to the intricacies of filmmaking. If it's jaw-dropping, then obviously it's gonna make an impact. But right now, I love the color, I love the direction, whatever that entails, the set design, the editing, the CGI. It did look a bit, not choppy, but unrefined. A lot of this was on location, I believe. Like Superman flying, that's quote unquote real. He wasn't flying, but David Cornsweet was on, wires floating through the air so that, it's forgivable. And it still looks good. It still looks great. It still looks crisp. Yeah, overall great direction. So now I want to get into basically the cast and the characters, because these are real people behind these movies, and I want to show them the utmost love, the utmost respect, because they brought this amazing project to life. So first and foremost, David Cornsweet as Superman. A perfect casting. I have to say it. A perfect casting. David Cornsweet embodies Superman so well. He gives off nice guy energy so well. When he's in the suit, when he has the hair done, you look at that and it's Superman. He just embodies everything Superman is. His Clark Kent is also great. His messy hair, the glasses, the bumbling, almost falling over posture that he has. It's great. It's amazing. Not necessarily a cast member, but definitely a character and inspired on a real being. Obviously, I'm talking about Crypto, the super dog. Crypto was great, man. Crypto was so fun. Such a good dog. Such a chaotic dog. It was just a great time anytime Crypto was around. Anytime Crypto was in the scene. Just amazing. I'm so glad James Gunn made the decision to include Crypto in this adaptation. Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane. Another amazing casting. Perfect, if I do say so myself. When she's in costume, when she's in character, she's Lois Lane inside and out. And her chemistry with David Cornsweet, get out of here, man. Through the roof, out of this world. People are starting to believe that they're having like an affair behind the scenes, or they're actually in love, something like that, which is crazy. I think they're just doing a great job. They're trying to really sell the romance between Clark and Lois in this movie. Trust me, which is in this movie. But Rachel as Lois does an amazing job, fantastic job. I'm looking forward to her future as Lois and to see Lois really embody that reporter role. And who knows, maybe we'll get a side show or a movie that further focuses on Lois Lane as she unravels a mystery, because I would really like to see that from Lois. And next up, another main player. Oh my god. Eddie Gathegi, I believe, as Mr. Terrific. That's a mic drop performance if I've ever seen one before. He killed it. He bodied it. Like I said, I'm not the biggest DC fan. My knowledge of Mr. Terrific goes as far as that amazing Adam Ross painting art by Adam Ross of Mr. Terrific in that sick ass jacket. You know, he's back towards us and he's slightly looking back. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. But that is as far as my Mr. Terrific knowledge goes. And I just want to say Eddie did an amazing job, did a perfect job. He is Mr. Terrific. He sold me on the character. He was comedic relief at times. He was the serious epic one at times. He was an absolute treat. I need to see this movie again. I definitely need a rewatch. I think I'm going to go take my mom, but I need to see this again. Next up, we have the incredible, the jaw-dropping Isabella Merced as Hawk Girl. Chef's kiss. Just chef's kiss. That's all I really need to say. No, but she did an amazing job. Another great casting. I loved her action scenes. I loved her demeanor as Hawk Girl. I'm excited to see more of her. She was in the Peacemaker trailer with our next cast member, Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner. Another amazing pick, another amazing casting, another comedic relief. He had some cool moments. I'm excited to see his future. Now, this is a standing ovation role. This is the best role in this movie. Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. That's an Oscar. Now, I might be reaching, I might be talking crazy. Whoever watches, real movies might be like, you're insane. But Nicholas Hoult did an amazing job as Lex. He did such a menacing Lex. He did such a hateful, spiteful Lex. And that is who Lex Luthor is at his core. He hates Superman with every ounce of his being for what seems like no reason. But you shed back those layers and it's revealed that Lex just has a case of fragile masculinity, because according to Lex, he's supposed to be the greatest human in the world. And here comes this alien crashing down, starts saving people, starts using his powers for good. And suddenly Superman is the talk of the town. Superman is the greatest person on Earth. Lex sees this. He feels like Superman took what is rightfully his, and he feels like Superman isn't deserving whatsoever of these titles, of this praise. And he wants to get rid of Superman once and for all, using whatever it takes. He'll sacrifice innocent lives. He'll put innocent people in danger just to get to Superman, just to have a chance to take down Superman. And the Lex scenes, my god. Nicholas Hoult, man, standing ovation. I'm not gonna get up and clap right now, but standing ovation role. I need to see more Lex Luthor. And those are my standout roles. Of course, there's Ultraman, the Engineer. Jimmy Olsen was another great comedic relief character. Eve Tessmacher, another great role. Basically Lex's girlfriend, fling. I don't know, but she was involved with Lex in some way. Things happen in the movie, but she ends up being a solid player. She's great. Mon Pa Kent, great, fantastic. Shaped Clark into who he is today, and they are the reason why Superman exists. So hats off. Mon Pa Kent were portrayed excellently. I loved Pa Kent, and Ma Kent was so southern. I loved it. And then we have the rest of the Daily Planet crew. They were, side characters at best. We have Perry White, Cat Grant, Steve Lombard. More comedic relief, more dramatic side characters to flesh out the story and the world and just give this movie and this universe a vibe that it's a real place. Now, there is some cool cameos, some cool appearances, important somewhat, but just more DC characters that give this universe and this story life, and also teases what's up ahead. I will not be spoiling that. What I will debunk and spoil is the non-inclusion of someone, and that is Batman. I know there was a delusional bunch that thought Batman was gonna appear in this movie somehow, some way. It's not the case. So the whole reason I bring that up is because there's been a lot of talk, a lot of debate, a lot of discussion about who should be Batman in the new DCU in James Gunn's universe. Should it be a whole new separate Batman and a separate actor? Or should James Gunn bring Matt Reeves and his Batman into the fold? After seeing this movie, a lot of people are writing for the idea that Matt Reeves should incorporate his Batman into this universe because the movies are polar opposites in a sense, and that's also what Batman and Superman are in the comics. So a lot of people, they're looking at this situation like, okay, just bring Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson into the DCU, please. And other people don't want it. They rather see a different actor in the DCU. I'm open to either. At the end of the day, I will respect Matt Reeves and his decision, considering it's his universe and his Batman. If they reach an agreement, if they make it work, cool. All hands on deck, I'm all in. If they don't and James Gunn has to cast someone else, that's fine. A-okay. Because I trust James Gunn, I trust his vision, I trust this new DCU and this new era. With that being said, I don't know who should play Batman. No clue. I've seen various fan castings. It could go either way, and I'm satisfied. And with that, I believe I've reached my conclusion. I want to salute James Gunn. I want to salute David Corenswet and the entire cast. This movie was fantastic, as close to perfect as a comic book movie can get. And I salute James Gunn. The DCU is going to thrive. I have faith in James Gunn and his vision. This movie was great, man. So with that, here comes my closing remark. Superman was a superhero movie in every sense. We live in a world full of movies based on comic books, therefore called comic book movies. James Gunn gives us a film based on arguably the greatest and most important superhero to ever exist. Superman is the blueprint, and this movie understands it to its core. Superman's focus and determination on saving and cherishing human life is the most refreshing part of this iteration. It's such an essential aspect to the character. He'll weave and dodge to save even the smallest breathing creature. And that is why James Gunn's Superman is the best superhero movie of the modern era. So there we have it, folks. Superman 2025, directed by James Gunn. Such an amazing film. One of the most perfect comic book superhero movies that I've ever seen. And with that being said, I want to thank you guys for watching so much. I hope you guys stuck all the way through. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I started this about 2-3 days ago. I decided to just re-record this entire thing because something in me there's a spark. I hope you can hear it in my voice. I'm making an effort to just have more personality, have more fun with this, be more comfortable. And I hope you guys can sense that. I hope you guys can hear it. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. But like I said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. Please subscribe. There's bound to be more content like this in the future. Please go watch Superman if you haven't already. And just in the theme of Superman, just be a good person, man. Just be the best version of yourself that you can be. Treat everyone with the utmost respect. Treat everyone with the utmost kindness. Just be a good dude, man. Just be a good person. That's all anyone can ever ask of you. If you have any suggestions, if you agree with me, if you thought this movie, lacked in some aspects for you, feel free to comment. Feel free to start a discussion in the comments. I make an effort, to go through comments to try to respond to everyone. I will not be responding to trolls or hate. I'm not in that ballpark, man. I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to waste my time on all that. Thanks for the engagement, though. No, but in all seriousness, just thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace out, y'all.